What's up? What's up? It's time for Done Way Past Funny with your host, G.D. Fenderson. Join us as we take a look back at the early works of seasoned comedians before they were seasoned with this week's guest, Kyleigh Weathers. It's time to get down and get dope with Done Way Past Funny. Hi, I'm G.D. Fenderson, certified forensic humorist. This is part 2 of our interview with attachment coach Kyleigh Weathers. Enjoy. Now I'm gonna clarify one thing, and it's because that's what I said to him, but I knew what I meant when I said you're replacing my father. What I really meant was you're fucking my mother. That's what I was.
Okay, great.
And that's what that's what was, but because when
that felt disrespectful.
Yes, when my father died, I mean I knew about sex. When my father died, my mother started dating. Not right away. It's not like he's in the ground, I'll start dating. Not right away.
Right,
she waited hours. No, I'm just teasing.
That was funny. You were that was a good one. You should write that down.
But she started dating, and I did not want her to be sleeping with other men.
Yeah.
And so I wrote 2 letters, one to Paul Lynn and one to Liberace, asking if they would be my stepfather. Because
OMG, that is so great. At 11, you knew what sex was, but you also thought it would be very likely that Liberace would answer this letter and be your father.
Yes, that Liberace and Paul Lynn, because I knew they were both gay.
Yeah.
And so they would not have any interest.
They wouldn't have anything to do. I get you. Okay, so can we break that down?
Sure.
So you made it mean something about that. And underneath it, you said, if she's sleeping with him, it means my father's being disrespected, right? That's what you're making it mean, all right?
That or my mother's just having sex, and mothers don't do that.
Okay, and so what if at 11 you, right, and she could have sat down and been like, hey, it feels like something's kind of weird. I just want to talk with you. Where are we good? And you had a relationship of emotional safety because she had taught you that, and you could have said, I don't really know how to say this, and I feel really weird saying this, but I don't like this like sex thing. It feels weird, and I don't know how to talk about it, but it's feeling weird that you're doing that with other people that are not my dad. And she could say, oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that with me. Let me tell you why that has nothing to do with your dad, but so valid that you're making it mean that. That makes so much sense at 11. It makes so much sense.
I'm gonna tell you how it played out in your
multiverse. Yeah, let's hear it.
Yes, and what actually. My mother started dating a friend of mine's older brother. Now the thing is, he was my mother's age, but my friend's mother had kids older than my mother and younger than me. She had kids she had 14 or 15 kids, and my mother was like 35 when my father died. This woman, Mrs. Costley, had kids that in their 30s, late 30s, like older than my mother. And her youngest was 2 years younger than me. Like she was very fruitful and multiplied.
Yeah, she did the damn thing.
Yeah, so my mother started dating one of her oldest sons who was in his 30s.
Okay.
And I did not like that because that meant that she's sleeping with my friend's brother, and the worst part is that if we ever had any kind of argument as friends, which friends do, and they talk about things, they're gonna say, well, my brother is banging your mother or something.
And can I ask you, did that ever happen?
Yes.
And how did you handle it?
I asked my mother not to do it. And
you said, don't date him anymore, please.
I asked her not to date him anymore. My mother goes, well, my mother said, look, I'm a grown woman. She says, I have needs, and some of those needs, she says, can only be met by and having sex with a man, blah blah. And she explained it just straight out,
just like that. I have needs, right?
And I said, but do you have to sleep with my friend's brother?
Right.
And my mother goes, like, it doesn't really mean anything. And she's like trying to say, it's not like an attachment. We're not going to get married. But she didn't. So.
And do you hear what you didn't get? You got a lot of logic. You got a lot of excuses, a lot of minimizing, and you didn't get a damn bit of validation for what you were feeling. And that's the important piece about these emotions. We have to validate that we're having them. It doesn't matter if we should or shouldn't be feeling them that way. You fucking are. So just feel it first, don't judge it, and deal with it.
So my solution was the next time they had sex, I knew they were going to have sex because it was like a Friday night. That was the routine. My mother thought I was in bed sleeping, and actually I was underneath of her bed,
Oh,
waiting for them to have sex. And once
yeah,
they
you really
started,
wanted some attachment trauma.
yes. So once they started, I got from under the bed and I said, "Okay, I can go to bed now." And my mother was like, "Oh my God!" And I walked out the room. And that was like the next day. My mother was like, she was really pissed. She was angry
The
then
next
because
day, she didn't come talk to you right away?
no, I guess, and they didn't believe me. They didn't finish or anything. He left, but I think she thought that she would kill me if she came in the room. I'm not exactly sure, but the next day, she says, "What was that all about?" And I said, "I asked you not to do that. I asked you
Mm.
not to sleep with them. I asked you. I begged you." And I said, I didn't know what else to do, and so that's what I did.
Oh my
And
god.
so,
And
and
so
my
imagine, I don't know in relationships for you, but imagine that someone else, I don't know if this has happened for you, but that attachment wound, that strategy, you went so far to make sure you could trust this woman because you told her don't do it, that you hid under a bed, right? Like that's extreme. That's an extreme strategy, right? You made me do it. I didn't want to do it. Now put that into adult relationships. You're
mm,
checking their phone. You're trying to get into their shit, right? Because you're feeling so unsafe. And so you start coming up with strategies to find safety in this situation. Usually the strategies are kind of bonkers, right? It
yeah.
doesn't make sense to hide under a bed and pop out and be like, I'm going to go to bed now, right? It was a strategy one to send the message, I fucking told you and now I caught you. And also, I asked you not to do that. I really was just hoping that you would be safe and trustworthy. Does
Well,
that make sense?
she when I asked her not to, and she made it clear that she had no intention of stopping.
Yeah.
So I
But
was
you
like,
still
okay,
did it anyway. You still, even though she
yeah.
said it, you still thought it made sense to stay connected to this woman, to get under a bed and do that
I
at
thought
11.
I thought that I thought that if I did something a little bit off kilter,
Yep.
because that's the other thing. Now, to be honest, that's why I had a slight advantage over my mother,
Mm,
because my mother was still trying to determine. I had a high IQ as a child, but
mm.
it kind of made my
Made her
mother thought that
uncomfortable.
it made my mother very uncomfortable, because
Mhm.
she didn't know how to deal with it, and also she was fine with it when I was younger, and I didn't have knowledge to go with the intelligence. I know I was intelligent, but no knowledge. As I
Mm.
got more knowledge, and it began to scare her, because then I was like, life became almost like an experiment for me. What happens if this happens? What happens if? And so me, I was almost looking at like life through like it was a
And
science.
research. Yeah,
Yes,
that's how I
yes,
live. Yeah.
yes. It was
I
like
love that.
research. Like, if I do this, what happens? And
Yes.
so and so it was like, I thought to myself, I can't. I've tried everything. I tried to reason with my mother, and my mother always thought I was a little bit off. Like I said, she just wasn't sure. She wasn't sure if I was a good genius or an evil genius. So that was a slight advantage I had over my mother in that regard.
Yeah,
But on the other
that's
hand, that was a risk, because I had to do it when my mother was sober. Because if my
mhm.
drunken mother would have
Yeah, it's
not
different.
waited, my drunken
But
mother would have, like, yeah,
even that you just added to the layer. Now you're also adding alcohol, like it sounds like drunken mother, perhaps just angry, loud. I don't know how she was, but
mm,
you saw her enough as drunken mother, sober mother.
right.
Like
I
it
had two
doesn't sound
moms.
like it was good. Right. I had two moms. And so I want to add one more thing. It was what you were trying to do was to control, right? You were feeling out of control and you were trying to control a situation, of course, that wasn't yours to control and you couldn't have. And so it makes you feel powerless when you can't control shit. And you
Right,
do these things like, well, I'm just going to have to do it this way. This is the only way, my last grasp at control. Right. And so imagine if you had been an 11-year-old who had been taught to emotionally regulate and taught that the only thing you can control is yourself. You wouldn't even have been under a bed. You wouldn't even have been, you would have already just had a conversation with her. Right. And
right.
so again, you weren't in a safe environment to do that. You couldn't be vulnerable. No way. You had two mothers. That's terrifying.
Yeah, that part. what you just described did not occur until I was a teenager, and I started doing transactional analysis.
Yeah.
When I was about 15 or 16, I started doing transactional analysis, and that's when I realized that, well, like I said, my stepfather, he didn't put it in the same way. My stepfather, because of the anger, he used
Mm.
to tell me that, look, any man can throw a punch,
Yes.
but it takes a really strong man to walk away.
Mhm.
And so, but even though I was at that point, I was like 11 or 12. Let me see, I think he died when I was 12, maybe 11. But it was, but I learned to be nonviolent from my stepfather. And the first time I threw a punch after he died, I was devastated because I felt like I let him down. Um, Actually, I didn't really throw a punch. I just tried to choke the kid out.
Yeah.
But he was asking for it.
Yeah, okay, okay. There's always a reason, right? Yeah. But I like what you said, right? That your dad taught you this, that the strong man, right, walks away. And I wrote down, yeah, and the stronger man is the one who can stay and narrate non-violently, right? That's all communication is narrating our fucking perspectives. And if you can stay and narrate in a non-violent way, hell yeah. Hell yeah. You're going to also save a lot of time with these fucking arguments we get into that last days and take things away from us. If we could just show up non-violently, like you said, and
Right.
be able just to say, hey, I'm feeling this way about something you did, and then the other person being like, oh, okay, yeah, I'd love to hear that, I'm curious, instead of like pissed and judgmental and like, how dare you, there's no way I could have disappointed you, right? Like, I'm perfect. Right. So we just freak out when we disappoint people, and then we get so upset with other people and they disappoint us, and it's like
Right.
such a double standard.
Yeah, now my early comedy, like I did do, like I did a bit about, I said I used to have two moms, but not the good way. I said I had two moms, not the good way. I mean, like one was, I said I said something like, I haven't done this material in so long. It's like probably I haven't done it like nine and a half years or so. I said I had two moms. I said I had my sober mom and I had the mom that, you know, and I would do that. And the only reason why I did that was because
Yeah.
one time I was doing that bit and I had family in the audience.
Mm.
And so rather than say I had the sober mom and the drunken mom, I just said the sober mom and the no.
Mm.
And that's because
I
I
like
did,
that.
yeah, because I
And did
didn't
they
want,
handle it okay?
yeah, the audience. I mean, like I said, um, the routine went well. I made it to the
Right.
finals of that comedy contest, and
Oh, dope.
my family that was there, they were like, really, you're really funny, you're really hilarious, and
Oh,
uh, um, so it was, but I haven't used that material like
in a
forever.
while.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, good. I can probably do another 10 minutes.
sure. It's
Is that cool?
whatever you. I
Yeah,
just
I've got breath work tonight, so I've got to get out of here in a little bit, but I go to breath work classes. I love it.
Oh, okay.
So
I
yeah.
just didn't want you to walk away without being able to promote what you do and talk about what you do.
Oh, true.
Now,
I mean, I'm kind of doing what I'm doing. This
cool.
conversation has been a good example.
Now, one of the things you talked about, okay, guys, people out there, just, we were talking before in the green room, and she'd asked me about comedians being good at reading people. I think and so
Yeah.
I said, hold it. And so now you can go ahead and ask.
Okay, I love it. Okay, let me see if I can rephrase it. Let me see.
Yeah.
So I was asking you, do you think that comedians are a good read? Right? Do they have a good read on people? What is your thought on that?
I honestly believe it depends on the level of the comedian because most comedians are self-absorbed,
Mm,
and so they don't pay attention to what is around them.
mm,
They're it's more like, even if they're watching something, it's because they're looking for material for themselves, as opposed to learning. It's my
mm.
So they would be a good read if they were less,
Hyper
less.
vigilant.
Yeah, I know. Like I'm I'm pretty decent at reading people,
Mhm.
but that's because I view people as mirrors, and I've been trying to learn about who I am since I was, very little.
Mhm.
Once I decided I was not going to be that damaged child anymore, and
Yes.
started looking for who I was as a person. And that's the same. That's the other thing. If I was in a relationship and a relationship ended, I would go through a reset because
Mm.
I wouldn't get involved with anyone, because I know that when you're in a relationship, whether you want to or not, you always either block parts of yourself or hide parts of yourself or reimagine parts of yourself to accommodate the other person in your life.
Mhm.
And so I
And
wanted
why do you do that? We do that because of we want to stay connected. We people please, we have no
right,
boundaries, we vacate our needs because we wanna stay with someone.
right.
But how do we just disconnect from ourselves so fast? Like, why don't we wanna stay with us?
I don't know the actual answer to that. That's I guess part of the reason why I still like to observe people because I'm
Yeah.
still learning about myself. I mean,
Yes.
I'm comfortable with myself, but not so
Mhm.
comfortable that I'm going to stop learning about myself. But I'm
Yes.
comfortable enough about myself that uh, I one of the things I say to my wife is like, I don't have any secrets. I just have shit I won't tell you. And the difference is a secret is something that you carry to your grave. Nobody like you're ashamed or something. I don't have any of that. I don't have any shame in what I've done in my life. It's helped make me who I am. But what I don't have is the patience to explain some of my actions.
Mhm.
It's like, look, it happened. I don't feel like explaining it. It happened. It's done. It's over with. I
And
no.
that's probably part of that avoidant strategy, right? Like I was talking about is it's difficult to explain what happened. It's difficult to explain when you don't have real access to talking about your feelings because you don't know how to feel them in your body. I mean, that's really what I'm teaching people is how to feel these actual emotions. It's a somatic experience,
Oh,
right?
I don't have a problem feeling them or understand. Like for example, one of the things that the example I usually use is when I was about I guess 8 or 9 years old. I think all the kids, all the boys had slingshots. We all had slingshots, and there was uh, a bird on a
Mhm.
branch, and
Mm.
it was a crow uh, on a branch. Actually, it's bigger than a crow. It's probably a raven because crows are kind of small. Ravens are bigger. It was a raven on a branch. And so, because I was the youngest kid with the slingshot, they made me wait last. And they were
Mm.
all taking turns trying to hit the crow. All
Mm.
right. I
Mm.
know. It's see, and just if now,
I know, different days, right?
right. And so, when, and I had to wait last, it's like the fifth kid hit the branch. And everybody's like, nobody's come even close to hitting the crow. It was like,
Mm.
and the kid hit the branch and the crow flew off. And I was like,
Mm.
he's getting away. And I took my slingshot and I hit him right in the head out of midair.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Now that's a
Yeah.
good shot.
Yeah, that sounds like
Okay.
David and Goliath shit right
Yes.
there.
And that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Now, as a kid, the kid in me was like, oh, wow, that was a great shot. And all the other kids are like blown away. And turns out that I was really good with a slingshot. You could
Mhm.
throw bottles and cans and I could hit them out the air.
That's
But
dope.
that was the first time that ever happened, and it was the bird and I killed it. And I felt, well, first I felt like, say, the exhilaration of being that good of a shot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like,
After that, I felt awful.
yeah,
And when I told my story to my wife the first time, she goes, "You killed a bird?" I said,
mhm,
"Yes, you don't understand." She goes, "You killed a bird?" I said, "Yes, I killed a bird. I'm not happy," but she says, "You killed a bird." It's like
mm.
I was 9 years old. I didn't,
Yeah.
it wasn't like I was setting out. I don't even think that thought I could kill the bird. We were trying to hit the bird, and I was like, as I was 9 years old, I didn't think that I could kill a bird.
You didn't
And,
probably think you could actually hit him either. Like,
well,
that's a great shot.
and that's it. I didn't know,
Yeah.
but I, like I said, I had to wait last, and I was just
Mhm,
getting more and more frustrated because everybody's like hitting him further, not further. They're just terrible shots. And once I learned that I was that good at the slingshot, I never fired at another bird again, another
mm,
living thing. I just started hitting inanimate objects, bottles, cans, stuff like that. But to
mhm,
get the same satisfaction of hitting a moving target, you know, at one point I went as far as to tie a rope from a tree and hang bottles from the tree and then swing the rope around and so I
mhm,
could hit the bottle that way.
mhm,
I felt awful. Again, I was about between 7 and 9. I was really young, and I'm 64 now.
mhm.
Okay, I haven't killed an animal since then. Not on purpose. Not with my car. Not if I catch insects, I try to catch them and take them outside the house.
Mhm.
Okay, if I kill an insect, it's because they had a chance to leave the house and they wouldn't. I'm sorry, you can't stay in the house. I don't go living in your spider webs outside. You can't stay. I understand they have their jobs to do, but like I said, that bothered me as a kid.
Mhm.
And I don't want to, I've already done my penance. I don't want to hear somebody go like, you killed a bird. It's like, yes, that was that was like 50 something years ago. Yes, I killed a bird.
Mhm.
Yes, I did. But I was a very good shot with the slingshot. So and so I don't. That's why I say that's what I mean by I don't want to explain, because I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear other people's judgment about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's
It
like
makes
it
sense. And
happened.
why? What does it mean when you hear other people's judgment? What do you feel? One word, feel.
I feel frustrated when I hear it. It's not that it doesn't like bother me per se. It's like I've been through this. Okay, get over it. I killed a bird. I'm sorry. It never happened again. I learned my lesson. You
Mhm.
know.
You
So
feel frustrated because they're not understanding the point, which is I'm a great shot, which is really the point of the story,
that
right?
was the point of the story. Yes, that
Exactly,
I
and
was
so
a
you're
great
feeling
shot.
frustrated, and it's not that they're not getting it, it's because it feels frustrating not to be making sense to someone. That
Yes,
always feels frustrating, right?
yes,
And so then it makes sense that you're like, "Never mind, I don't wanna feel frustrated, so I'm not gonna tell that story anymore and explain it." Right?
yeah,
That's a great, and so that's just a kind of example of, like, how we do that, right? Where we shut down for our shit. You wanted to tell that story, right? And you changed telling it because of these other people, right?
right. I
And
don't.
that's
I
how
don't.
we do
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
yeah.
that's how we do it.
I mean, if it comes up, I'll tell it. If it comes up organically,
Mhm.
sure, I'll tell it. But it's not a secret.
Right, yeah.
Like I said, I've done. Now I'm 64 years old. I'm not a saint. I've
Yeah.
done good things. I've done bad things. Now, hopefully, at the very end of my life, when I close my eyes, if I have eyes to close, I mean, it could be a horrible accident where I don't even have eyes to close.
Mm, we're knocking on wood for you, okay? I got you.
Yeah, but when the brain shuts down, the last thing I envision would be like, overall, you weren't so bad.
That's we'll end with can we end with that? Because that is the message of what brought me to Queerly Attached, like to create this thing. I went through an awful breakup. I had been jumping relationship to relationship, 2 marriages, right? 2 divorces, then a U-Haul where I moved here, didn't end well, and I just was beating myself up about it, right? Just beating myself up. I could not forgive myself for that choice. But we can always just pivot, right? Like we can
Right.
always just reset. And once you realize that, it's like, yo, we really are the creators. You mentioned every time I go through a breakup, I leave time because I know I've got to process something, right?
Right.
You leave time because that's the time to create, right? You've just gone through destruction. Well, it's a cycle. Create, destroy, create. You get to start again. And I just think that's so fantastic that like you finally hit that place where you're just like, yeah, I don't want to get to the end of my life. And if I'm alone, I'm like, damn it, I'm alone. That's what happened to me. It was like, I don't want to be sad if I'm single at the end. That
Right.
would be a terrible last 30 seconds to be pissed that I didn't end up in a relationship. So I decided I wanted to end up in a relationship with myself. Right. I
Right.
started getting to know me, dating me. And so now, yeah, of course, I would love to be in a relationship. I say I'm securely single, but I just know I'm not going to vacate myself anymore to be in relationship. And that's what I want to teach people to do is to stay within and still be able to date and be in relationship and connect.
And what I want comedians to understand and learn from this is that, first of all, again, acknowledge your pain and do your best to grow from it.
Yep.
And don't torture us with terrible stories. Make us laugh. You're supposed to
Yeah.
be funny. You're supposed to be funny, okay? Yes, bad things happen to good people, and bad things happen to all people, not just good people.
Ah,
But
there we go. Yeah.
and so and it helps us. If you're lucky and you survive the trauma, you can rebuild from the trauma.
That's right.
And if you're a comedian, then make people laugh, because I
Yeah.
tell stories that hopefully get people to say that happened to me. He lived through it. I can get through it too.
Yep.
And those
From
hope.
pain. Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
from pain to purpose. Like it has
Yes.
to be that. And if it's not, you just stay in pain. And that's called suffering. Like I'm not going to choose to suffer in my own life. I just won't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that was dope. Thanks, man. It was really fun to talk with you. I love that we did this.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, really fun.
So I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah.
Now, is there anything that you want to promote? I mean, your podcast. When does your podcast start?
So I've already got 6 episodes where I've recorded 6 ex-Mormon lesbian friends from Utah. So I've
Okay.
got their stories about how it felt coming up Mormon, but gay, and then what it was like to leave. A lot of them left marriages. So that's coming out in October. Um, like I said, it's called the Place of Pain podcast, um, attached to the outcome. And so I'm also running local events. Anyone in Kansas City, I don't know where your listeners are from, but I'm running local queerly attached events where I'm teaching people how to connect, right? Like actually how to have a conversation and not just trauma dump, right? And do those types of things so that we can actually build a foundation of safety, right? So that when we get to these places where we're like, we're making it work, we're making it work, we're trying to make it work, and we're like, oh shit, can we try and make it safe? Like, let's start there. Let's make it safe, and then probably it won't feel like such hard work. And so I'm trying to think what other ways we could definitely take the quiz at Queerly Attached on all my socials. I think that's me.
How can people hear your podcast? First, is it just vocals or is it
Oh,
picture?
it's going to be picture and vocals. Yeah, I'm going to be on Spotify. We're going to put it everywhere. We're going to have the RSS feed and just put it all the places. Um, And I also one-to-one coach. I mean, honestly, I am working with people. I'm working with one woman, a black gal from New Jersey, whose life has changed dramatically. She came through, met me as she was just been heartbroken, first lesbian relationship. She was 30, didn't know she was a lesbian. And in 5 weeks, we had her past it. And we
Now,
barely talked about that ex. We talked about her and how she had left her,
now, see, I'm going to ask you what you asked me because you said a black woman from Jersey, I think it was. Now, was it important that they know it's a black woman from Jersey?
Oh, she tells me it is, and I'll tell you why. I love that you asked me that. She tells me it's very important that I add that part because she wants the message to get out. Black women should absolutely be putting themselves first, and they are raised in a culture where they're not taught to do that. She is so proud that she, in her words, is a beautiful black woman, right?
Uh-huh.
Who decided to invest in herself. And she did. She invested the hell out of herself, and she's doing this work where her life looks completely different. Right? It's been beautiful. So hell yeah, black woman from Jersey. Very important part of the story.
I was just saying because, like I said, because you was asking me about I was telling the story and like I said, I
Oh,
don't
I was just trying
remember.
to help you figure out why you had said gay. I was like, I don't know why you would say gay in a
That
joke.
part of that is, like I said, it's the way I talk in the sense that, like, when I even like, if I try to be accurate and I try to
Mm,
paint accurate pictures. Now, if it's not pertinent, it probably doesn't even get mentioned. But I think I something I did learn. If you don't say, like, if you're in conversation and you don't say the race of a person or the gender of a person, whatever it is, if I say this guy I know, most people assume it's a white guy and it's a white straight
mm,
guy.
mhm.
That's just and so I want to pick an accurate picture for my stories. And so I will say if it's pertinent to the story, I will say that, uh,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
so that's why I do it. But otherwise, like I'll tell people my wife is white, not that I care, but because it sets up other jokes. you
Well,
know?
not just that, because they're honestly, we do live in a construct, right? Where as a
Right.
society, we decided that race is the way that we're going to do this. By telling me that you have a wife that is white, I immediately can have empathy
For
for
her.
what it feels no, well,
No,
yeah,
just
for
kidding.
her, I'm talking to you, you jackass, but really empathy for, right, an interracial couple. That's a whole different experience, right? That's a whole nother experience where I was married to a guy that looked black, but was actually Native American. But we experienced some of that bias and some of that judgment. And I never would have had that experience if I hadn't been married to him. Right. So
Yeah.
you just sharing that immediately, I have another connection with you. Right. And it's not because your wife is white, it's because of an experience that you've had.
Yeah. See, now when I joke about it, I say I'm in a mixed marriage, and I say not that she's white and I'm black. She is, but big whoop. That's not important. I said that's not the real mixed part. The real mixed part could wreck a marriage. I'm a morning person, and she needs coffee.
That's a
That's
great joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
That's the
great joke.
and that's the crux of our daily existence.
That's cute.
I
That's
have
a
to
good
give her
joke.
coffee before we can have a marriage.
Yeah, that's hey,
Oh yeah,
the
yeah,
rules, then you know what to do. So as long
yeah.
as you're playing on the same page, that's the way to be. So man, I appreciate this, man. So how quick do you get stuff out usually?
Well, usually I can get it done within a week. It's just
Mhm.
that I have to re-edit I have to recreate my introduction.
Okay. Yeah,
Uh,
cool. I love it. Well, good.
and
Fun.
this is, I think we talked for like maybe an hour, I think it is. And
Yeah,
so
about an hour or 10, yeah.
yeah, so it'll be like roughly two segments. And so as soon as they're done, I'll let you know.
Mm.
And when when you're first of all, you you have an open invitation to come back to Coffee with the Dog
Do
anytime.
it really? Wow.
Yes, and
That's surprising.
so if you come back, like if you want to promote your podcast starts when it starts
Mhm.
in October, come
Mhm.
back and let everybody know that
Okay.
it's there.
Thank you.
Yeah, just yeah.
Appreciate that.
If you ever finish your book, come back to Coffee
Yeah.
with the Dog, and
I love that. I love it,
yeah,
thank you. I
yeah,
love
sure.
that. I have honestly, like, I think what I really enjoyed about first of all, you were a surprise to me during that interview, right? Like,
It's
I
the
could
hair.
tell no,
Is
no, I could
no, I'm
just
just
tell
kidding.
that you were so engaged. Like, I could tell you were getting it, and that was nice to have you in there getting it, and so I love that you listened to your gut and was just like, "Yeah, I wanna have you on. Fuck it, that's not my format. It's my fucking podcast. Like, I do what I want."
It's fun. And then one of the things that now, so one of the things that also, one of the things that, first of all, I like intelligent people. Period. I just like
Mhm.
intelligent people, and so I like intelligent people who are also in touch with, or not afraid of getting in touch with, who they are on the inside. Because you can meet a lot of intelligent people who have no idea and don't even try. They're just so
Yep.
smart
Let me
that
read
they
the
don't put.
poem. We forgot the poem. I gotta do the poem.
Oh, okay.
This is a poem that I received in an event in Florida. Two women, I'm gonna tell their at because they deserve all the credit. At Merk the Moment, MERK the Moment, and they had a typewriter in front of them. And they said anyone could have a poem written if they just you gave us them a word. And they asked me what my word was, and I said self-abandonment. And they said, "What?" And I said and I said, "You know that thing where you, like, disconnect from yourself to, like, stay in with them and, like, fuck that shit. I don't wanna do that shit anymore." And they were like, "I know exactly what that is." And then I went about my evening, and do you know, I was out of town. I left. I forgot to pick up the poem. And so I flew home that next morning, and when I got on Instagram on the plane, I remembered the poem, and I went to find them on Instagram, and I saw this poem in their story, and I knew immediately it was mine. I knew immediately. And I reached out and asked, "Is there a way that I could pay you to send that?" And they mailed it to me. And I just it has really meant a lot. And since you're a poet, I'm going to share it with you.
Okay.
This is written by Kelly J from Merk the Moment. A permanent address. I never should have left me. I've been searching through bus stops, scanning grocery stores and bars, looking for who I was 10 years ago. And of course, I can't find me. I've been gone for quite a while, lost in acts of service, all consuming love, polishing her underlined plans to perfection as mine tarnish and rust. But I'm taking on a new form now, banishing bad habits back to their hellmouth as I grip myself by my own shoulders, shake free the abandonment. I've got my own hand now, and I'm never letting go.
That's cool.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
That was really meaningful. I love it. This is my anthem. I have planted a flag of I will never self-abandon again. I don't want to date people who do. I don't want to be in like I want authentic connection. We've got to stop disconnecting from ourselves. We've got to stay home and figure out who we are so that we can actually meet other humans, right? We meet
Yes.
humanity when we meet ourselves, right?
Yes.
And so to connect, we've got to connect inwards so we can find the grace and empathy it takes to move through conflict and connect through it.
Now I realize that your what you do is basically geared toward the LGBTQ community
It is, but,
plus.
I'm actually helping straight folks. I had a call
Yes,
yesterday. Yeah, I listen, I wanna help all the people. I particularly
yes,
wanna help, of course, this marginalized community that I'm a member of,
yes.
because it does take a different form, but I wanna help all the people, yes. So anyone, absolutely reach out. You can subscribe at queerlyattached.net to my newsletter. Like I said, the podcast is it'll be loaded on YouTube, it'll be on Spotify. We're gonna just try and throw that thing everywhere, so
That's
we're
it.
gonna get this word out there, man. A little
Cool.
organic growth.
And let me know also when it's out because I'll promote it also
I
on
love
my
it. Thank
yeah.
you so much. I love we
Sure.
should do like a monthly thing and like maybe you bring a guest on and I like we drill him on his pain, but we do it from the place of like I'm coaching you, you little sad comedian.
we can do that on we did a we could do it on your podcast
Yeah, exactly. That's what
in
my
it
podcast is going to be. I'm going to bring people on to talk about from the place of pain.
yes
So
we'll do it in
I'll
your
bring the
wheelhouse.
comedian. I'm going to bring you on. I'm going to get you.
Sure. I don't have a I am almost an open book. an open, unfinished book with
I love that.
ink kind of runny sometimes from tears once in a
That's
while.
just the 64 years old, right? That's what happens when you're 64. So I've got something to look forward to. All right, man. I love you, dude. That was so good. I appreciate you. And
Okay.
I'll see you next time, man.
All right now.
All
Thanks.
right. Bye.
Bye.